sure if people can hear. I wondered if you can remember any story or memory of your father's from growing up on Assateague. Can you remember any little thing that he said about what that was like?
What it was like to grow up on Assateague for your father. What, if any, stories about your father growing up on Assateague?
Well, they all worked on the water, and they all had a little bit of livestock. Raised their own cows and pigs and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
And,
Did they have a roundup for the sheep back then? You remember that, or did your dad talk about that?
Yeah, I heard them talk about that. They have the women would cook up a big, they had big hog killing pots, he said. Like you boil over in and you kill hogs in morning pots. They would cook up stew, sort of some kind of stew or something in it, and that's what they would feed the crowd on.
Oh, cool.
These Chincoteaguers leave, come over Chincoteague gas too, grind up.
Oh, okay. Well, now do you know what year, or know what time of year, what season they had that in?
It's during the summer,
Okay.
probably on like this planting time.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah, and one thing I cut out of this one, but if you go online you can see the longer version, is about how you used to go over to the lighthouse and the lens that we have now, you said you cleaned the brass.
Yeah, me and a friend of mine, Eugene Murray, would go, Mr. Norman Jones, he was in the Coast Guard, he was the caretaker. He'd get us to go over and do the work for him.
And did you get paid anything?
No, just the trip, get to sail over there in the boat.
Yeah.
And get to go up the tower. Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. Do you remember your parents, when your parents, not parents, yeah, I guess it would have been your dad, when he was moving off of Assateague, I know you talked about it a little bit, but do you remember why he decided to move off of Assateague?
Well, the government was buying up all the land on there.
That's what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, they had to. I guess they had to sell it, or they were going to take anybody.
Yeah.
Well, prior to the government taking over, though, wasn't there a neighbor that came in that kind of disturbed them and wanted them all to leave?
Oh, Donna was saying, wasn't there a neighbor on Assateague that came in and wanted people to leave? A neighbor? Oh, Field, right.
What was her name? It was some people come in there and bought up a lot of land on there. They tried to keep people off, and they weren't really good people. I can't think of her name now.
Field.
Nellie Burrell.
Nellie Burrell. Oh, okay.
Well,
That's interesting. Well, Donna was saying Field might be another person that was related to them, too.
Yeah, you got the name Fields people.
Other questions? Mark?
I've heard a lot of stories about cigar over the years, about poaching and outsmarting the game wardens, and I wonder if you have any stories that you'd like to share.
I cut him out of there. I didn't know if you would.
I'm not a game warden.
I've done just about a little bit of everything. Yeah, the only way of living then.
Can you tell us about hunt guns, or the gun that's over to the left,
That
the
was
little boat?
before my time, the hunt guns.
They were before your time.
I never knew anybody ever using them around just around y'all here. They used to move on today. Chesapeake.
We've got a video of Mr. Tom Reed, and he shows the hollow decoys.
Yeah.
Did you ever use any hollow decoys?
No.
You just got away with it without any of those tricks.
There was a story about Pop-Up. Pop-Up took you, you went with him, I think, and he left you, and the game wardens were coming. You were on Assateague. You remember that? Yeah.
Do you want to tell the story?
I can't remember the whole story, that's the problem I have too.
Yeah, you do.
But
When you come up over there, over on the beach on the game ones that afternoon. You had in your feed house.
She remembers. Well, as you were saying in the video, you said they counted before the bridge was.
on a Sunday afternoon.
Well, let's just tell a little bit about it.
uh,
Let's tell a little bit about it. We'll not arrest you now.
No, you're safe.
Well, we got over there early and we were sitting down along the road, he went to sleep. You know, just sitting there, the sun shone down, it was warm, and I was kind of dozing, and I heard something, I looked way down the road, here come a Jeep. Coming up the road, well, we had our boat tied up to one of the government signs. So he done got in the boat and took off and left me on there.
How old were you?
I don't know, it was probably in the late 50s.
And
I am.
Well, I took out to the thickest place I could find in the woods. And I had a rifle and it got crossways to vines and briars when I went through and snatched out of my hand. Lost it. And I turned around and looked, the man was went very far behind me. I said, ain't got time to go back and get her. So I took out and I took out for the marsh. There was some hunting clubs out on the marsh on the islands. So I had it in my mind, I was going to run out on that marsh and swim across that little creek like they come in there and go in one of them hunt clubs.
Okay.
Not by that time, I looked down the bay and I saw a boat coming up. I said, good, laying and talking to myself. I said, give a call down and got somebody coming up, going to cut me off. But it happened to be two Chincoteague people and they picked me up and took care of me.
So you got away.
That was luck. Lost my hat and everything.
how about Christmas, when we didn't have any money?
Yeah. Swan.
I don't think we'll go into that.
No.
That's a good story, Dad.
Good afternoon, it's a pleasure to meet you. I was curious, not being from here, I was curious, during the Second World War and being on the Eastern Shore, was there anything special? Did you have rationing? Did you have blackouts? Was people looking for U-boats or something like that?
Yeah, we had blackouts. Yeah, they had one of our we had air rings. And one of the wardens lived right close in the neighborhood. And they had used them real dark curtains like cover shade you pull down. And in fact, we weren't supposed to have no light at all when they have air raid warning.
Yeah.
And he would come around, and if he saw a little tiny crack, he would holler, beat on the door and holler and tell you, if you don't turn that light out, I'll come in there and turn it out for you. Yeah, and it was Camp Fletcher was there on Ridge Road, and the Army was there, soldiers. And they guarded day and night, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, different places where boats would normally dock. It's a different place down to the inlet and down to the Tom's Cove campground that was called the Old Dominion Club then.
Right. And didn't that become, I think that became a Coast Guard infirmary, where Tom's Cove is now, so that was
Yeah.
interesting. And you talked about ration books. Do you remember anything about the ration books from that time?
Yeah, whenever you went to store anything, they allowed you so many stamps, ration stamps. And each year, and whenever you went to store, you had to take the book. If you wanted a can of peas or a can of beans, you hand it to them, they tear a stamp off. And that's the only way. If you didn't have that book, you didn't get nothing.
Yeah.
You're like one pair or 2 pair of shoes a year. If you You didn't have stamps, you didn't get no shoes.
Cork, could you tell us a little bit about the role Gunboat Shoal played during the war? Gunboat Shoal is no longer, but it was in front of Wallops Island. And I always heard that they used lights on the Wallops Island side to lure enemy ships into Gunboat Shoal, but I don't know if that's
Can you
true.
hear?
Not very good.
Not very good.
Not
She's
very good.
asking about Gunboat Shoal. Gunboat Shoal, and that was over in front of Wallops, you said?
Yeah,
You
it's
can
in
probably tell us
between
more
Wallops and
about it.
Astor.
Oh, yeah, you, okay, so do you know,
That's gone now.
do you know if it played a role during World War II?
Well, I know they used to have boats, the government, I guess they hired them, some fishing boats, party boats that were, and Daddy, he joined in, they called it Hooligans Navy.
Hooligans Navy.
They would guard the inlets, they would lay in the inlet and with no boats allowed in there unless they checked first. Then you didn't do any sailing names.
Okay. So the Hooligans Navy, they weren't really officially part of the Navy. They were more
Well,
locals that were
Yeah, they had to
helping.
take examination and join.
They did, okay.
Yeah, they call it Coast Guard Reserve.
Oh, okay.
It'd be I think by two would stay aboard a boat and they would guard inlets all the way down the coast, each inlet all the way down the coast.
Oh, Kristen.
Something I think I've never asked you, because I've heard a lot of stories about work in the water and leading hunting parties and things, but when you were growing up, what did you do for fun?
What did you do for fun?
Work on people, throw stuff on ties.
What? I couldn't.
Work on people, go by and throw stones on that roof or tin cans.
Just started.
We had one would get somebody go to the back door and one to the front door and knock on the door, and when he got to the front door, the one to the back door would knock on the door.
So you played pranks on people.
Have you lived on the east side all your life?
Have you lived on East Side all your life? Yeah.
Born there.
He was born there.
When you pick up a piece of wood, how do you decide what you're going to carve out of it?
Just whatever comes in my mind.
What do you like to carve best?
Shorebirds.
Was there a shorebird that you liked to eat most, more than others?
I think the Dalwits or the Graybacks, they were good. Curlews. Curlews was good, but they were bigger, but they were tough.
They were tougher, okay.
How about oyster catchers? Did you ever eat oyster
Never-
catchers?
Never did eat oyster catcher. Never shot one that I ever knew of.
More questions? Okay.
It's a lot of changes now than what it was then.
What kind of changes have you seen?
Everything.
Um,
Way on the water and everything. It used to be plenty of clams, oysters, and crabs, plenty of seafood. Now it's all in it.
yeah. Why do you think that is?
So many people got in it, and they got bigger rigs and bigger boats. They caught up everything.
Yeah.
I think.
And if
Overfishing.
I've got another
Oh.
question, yeah. I've interviewed some people here in past years too, before this program got started. I used to ask, what do you miss the most about the old days?
What do you miss the most about the old days of Chincoteague?
Being on the water, I went on the water every day on the lake 7 days a week, doing something. Whether it's right or wrong, I went every day. The days that weren't fit for anything, the days that I used to like travel.
So even when it was icy and...
I used to go and swim, we used to be the best duck hunting.
He's never had a driver's license.
You don't have to tell that. No, no, good job.
Well, you didn't need one. You go around in the boat and
Yeah,
get everything you need.
that's where I stayed in the boat all my life.
Yeah.
No, I never had no driver's license in my life. No credit card, no telephone. No cell phone, I got a telephone in the house.
I think I've called your number.
Tell them how well we ate.
We eat high on the hog. We raised our own, we would have killed deer and all. I love deer hunting, I've always done it. Ever since the having season, maybe before that. But anyway, we raised our own beef, pigs, we raised our own pork.
On east side.
Yeah.
Wow.
I always kept two cows and I butchered one each winter. Had one come off each winter.
Huh.
And raised our own pigs. We always raised two of them every year. I done all the butchering.
Wow.
I raised our own ducks and geese and chickens. Didn't have to buy no eggs or nothing. And loads of everything that she said it was all hers, all of it belonged to her and didn't want me. She didn't even want me to eat chicken eggs. She said someday they would be
They were all pets.
chickens.
And you had that plus the seafood, and you had, did you have a big garden?
Yeah, we always had a big garden.
Yeah.
And boy, she canned stuff. And then when we got able, we went down for a big chest freezer. Boy, we froze everything going. We really lived, we lived high for us eating.
Yeah.
First got my light bill was like $3
$3 for the light bill.
for the light bill. Yeah.
That was your first light bill, you said? Or that was what?
That's when I first got married.
When you first got married, okay.
Yeah. I think I only had one light bulb hanging and stuff.
I see two hands back here. Here's one.
I assume you're a granddaughter or daughter, and I was just wondering about your family, if you had a lot of children, a big family, and if they stayed on the island as well.
There's just two of them here.
We still do, every Sunday,
They
we
still
still
do.
do a big Sunday dinner. And it's
Oh,
usually
that's so
anywhere
nice.
from 12 to
18.
17, 18 of us.
So introduce everybody.
Or something.
I know that's what I was gonna say. I'm sorry I forgot to introduce
okay.
you. So if you
I'm
could
Amy Lewis, I'm his daughter. This is
She's the cook now.
and interpreter.
She cooks just like
my
Mom.
sister Theresa, my daughter April back there, and this is my granddaughter here, Amber.
This would be his great-granddaughter.
Right.
That's my great granddaughter.
Not me.
Now Mark had a question too.
Court, do you have any memories of the great storm of 1962?
Oh, good question.
Living through it and what you remember about it?
I remember the storm, all right. It was a bad time. The tide come up to, you've been back there in the little white bungalow on the side, that's where we lived for 36 years. And it come up to the bottom of the bedroom window, the tide did.
But tell them how you went out and you checked the tide and...
Oh yeah, I kept going out that night. The wind had blew northeast hard for about 3 or 4 days. And I told my wife, I said, something's going, ain't right, it don't usually do this. So I went out and that morning, like just before daylight, checked the tide, see, because it come in that morning pretty full. I went down and it was just about halfway up that lane where it come to the house. The tide was, and I went back again and checked it, and it was all the way up to that last house on the right there. I went in her, I said, don't look good. And 5 o'clock that morning, I went out and checked again, and it was coming up in the yard. And before we got all our stuff started up, you could see almost come up each step. It come up to come on in the house. But we got we got most of it stacked up on, I got boards and cement blocks and put them in the floor and put them up on that.
So the tide was in your house?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was.
She was running up and down the house up to her knees in the floor.
How old were you?
She was little.
Little.
Yeah, about 3.
She wasn't real,
Yeah.
lost her shoes.
What happened the next day? Did the Coast Guard come and get you or rescue you?
Well, the next day, the tide was still up. No, and I stayed busy outside after I got everything in the house, took care of the best I could. And take care of my chickens and all and stuff. And I had a big row of pens, had that full of pheasants, all kinds.
Oh, pheasants.
And I'd take the chickens and put up on top of the pen. And by the time I got 2 or 3 on top of the pen, we'll try to catch some more, they would fly off in the water. And I lost a lot of them.
Did you lose livestock too? Cows?
No, I had a cow, and I checked on him, he didn't come out the stable, and it was all the way up to his stomach, to his belly, the tide was.
Oh.
So I opened the door and took the gate down, and I let him out. It was a sort of a hill down to the sides of us, in Sunnywood Manor. Wasn't any houses at all down there then. So I took him down and put him on that hill, and before I got back, he run over me, went back in the stable. So the preacher, Mr. Raymond Crowley, he sailed back in his boat, check on me, because we were always close friends, and still are. That next morning, and I had feed. I put my hay and stuff for my cow overhead in my where our workshop was. I laid some 2 by 4s across the boat, put it upside the stake rod. We went there with the boat and put the feed on the boat and let the cow eat off the bow of the boat. I wish we had a picture of it and thing I'm got on camera. You know, one of the big orange helicopters come down like treetop low and wanted motion, wanted to know if I wanted to go, and I said, shook him, no.
So you stayed?
Stayed till the tide fell.
Wow. How many days did it take for it to fall, do you think?
2, it went out the second day. I mean, went out the yard and stuff, it was still flooded around the yard and stuff. And then we cleaned up the best we could. Mud was probably that deep all over the ice floor. So we cleaned up everything we could, and then we got word that we had to go if we wanted to or not. Had to leave down.
Oh, you had to? Oh.
So they took us over, let's see. We went down there and Carlton Armory. This was, they took us down to our little front, took me to jail.
Oh, so they took you to Onancock Armory, but you said you'd rather they took you to jail?
First night. Like, I don't know, must have been 300 or 400 kids up there.
300 or 400 people there?
Laying in the floor and over there, yeah.
Wow. Were they all from Chincoteague or from other islands too?
Chincoteague and different places along the coast. So the next day, a friend of ours come and got us and took us back in Oak Hall, by one of them roads. And this guy's father lived back there, so he took us back there and they took us in and kept us 2 or 3 days.
Wow,
And
yeah.
then we left and went up to the base again, up to the Navy base.
On Wallops Island, okay.
Yeah, that new one. And I told a friend of mine was there, and I said, we're going out of here, and I'm going home one way or the other. So I tell you where Ocean Deli is,
Yeah.
they had it blocked off, National Guard was there with big army trucks and stuff. So I asked them if we could go right over with them. They said they couldn't do it, said they're afraid they'd get in trouble. So this guy, he's a little guy, and they did not pick him up. He said, if you want to go, so we'll hide you up in the back of the truck.
So the National Guard hid you in the back of the truck to go.
In the truck, and they went on across after the tide fell. Put us out in time, right in on over to,
Oh, okay.
over on.
That's a great story. I didn't realize that. That's a
And that's where I stayed, I didn't go back,
Mhm.
I think. You and your mom come back, buddy. The next day or day, I think about 2 days.
Yeah, a couple days.
Couple more days. We're approaching about an hour since we started, which is great. We've got so many stories. Does anybody else have maybe one last question for Cork?
I just got a statement to say, I really, really, really enjoyed it. I could listen to it for more
Me too.
time than an hour.
I know.
We need to start story time with Cork McGee.
Story time, yeah, we should. Thank you very much.
They can come to his shop anytime.
Oh, and you can come to Cork's shop anytime. He's over, if you go on East Side, you'll see McGee, is it McGee?
McGee Lane.
McGee Lane. So it's named after him. You're on the east side, and then you can turn down there and go to his shop. He's usually in there carving anytime I've gone over there.